Hi, this is Kiran. Today I'm going to discuss about prototypal object-oriented programming, that is JavaScript. So, object-oriented programming language is one of the paradigm where we can solve many of the software problems. Okay. So generally, this object-oriented programming language, we call it as OOPS, is classified into two types. One is classical based object-oriented programming, classical OOPS. Second one is prototypal based on object-oriented programming. So, uh, C++ and Java and other languages comes under this classical object-oriented programming language, whereas JavaScript comes under this prototypal object-oriented programming language. Okay. So, in this prototypal object-oriented programming, we are able to create only dependent objects. So what do you mean by dependent objects? Okay, let us discuss about this one. Before that, here in case of classical object-oriented programming, we are able to create independent as well as dependent objects also. So what does it mean by dependent objects? So when I'm going to create an object in JavaScript, definitely this object should have its parent element. So that means what I'm saying is every object should be derived from its parent. So if I call this object as a child, it should derive from its parent. Okay, that is called prototypal object-oriented programming. So let us suppose if I take this as an object or a child, this itself has its own parent. Let us take this as a grandparent. Okay, if I take this as an object, definitely it should derive from its own parent, grandparent, something like this. Because the chain is going to be continued like this. Okay, we don't know where the end of this chain. That is what actually the prototype object-oriented programming. This is similar to, this is an analogy I can give for this. This is similar to your human race. So in human race, every object was constructed or every object was created from its parents, right? Again, its parent has its own parent. We call them as grandparent. Likewise, the chain is going to be continued infinitely. We don't know where the end of this one. Whereas in case of classical object-oriented programming, we are able to create some independent objects. Of course, we can do dependent objects also. Okay, but here we can create an object without any parent independently. Analogy for this one is non-living beings. You can call non-living beings are what you call are dependent objects. Sorry, independent objects. So that means when I created a house doesn't have its parent, right? There is no meaning of house parent. Okay, so that's why this is an independent object. A house is an independent object. So such type of independent objects are able to create using this classical object-oriented programming. Of course, we can create dependent objects in classical object-oriented programming like this. But there should be an end of this chain. Why? Because we can create infinite objects like this. But at some point, this chain is going to be break. This chain is going to be find its end. This chain will have its one. But coming to this prototypal object-oriented programming, it's a rule that the prototypal object-oriented is saying that every object should be created from its parent. That means if I take this as a object, this as a child object, definitely it has its own parent. Okay. For example, in Christianity, two superhumans like Adam and Eve. These are the two superhumans from which all the human race was developed. Okay, something like this. All the human race was developed something like this. A chain of human race can be created from the Adam and Eve. So I can say this is the super object for all these human race. So this is child, this is parent, grandparent, grand-grandparent, grand-grand-grandparent, something like that. Finally, you will find this as a super object. If I think Adam and Eve as an object, again this should have its own parent. Probably it might be a God. If I think God as an object, it should have its own parent. Why? Because that is the rule of this prototypal object-oriented programming. It should have God parent. Likewise, this has that means we don't know where the end of this particular chain. The chain is going to be continued like this. Okay, so let me explain. See, go to your browser. This is your browser. Now you can see, press F12 on the browser so that you will open your debugging window. Now what I'm going to do is, I just want to see the document of your browser. dir of, just use dir. Dir is a debugging function which can list out all the properties of your document. See, let us assume this is a child object. Now this child object has all these properties, right? And it has its own parent. The parent can be represented with the underscore proto underscore. When I click on this, it will open. Again, it has another parent, grandparent I can call. Come down. Again, you have another parent. Come down. Again, click on this. Again, you have another parent. Click on this. Let us assume this is the object as a Adam and Eve, super object. If I think this as a super object, that means if I think it is as an object, definitely it should derive from its parent. So here we have a constructor method where from this you can see from which this object is going to constructed. Okay, something like that. You have another proto keyword is there. The chain is going to be continued like this. Constructor and proto, constructor and proto. Likewise, the chain is going to be continued infinitely. We don't know where the end of this JavaScript is. Regarding this particular JavaScript objects this is what we can call prototypal object-oriented programming. Now, what is the need of doing such things? What is the need of this object-oriented programming in our front-end web technologies? See, almost all the front-end web technologies is the graphical oriented. See, image is a graphic, and displaying a text content, text box like this is a graphic. We need to move the text boxes. We need to move the images, something like this. So when you're going to work with some sort of graphical oriented design, you need to be your objects to be very powerful in nature. Why? Because every object should have so many powers. For example, come back to this. With the help of this object-oriented programming language, prototypal object-oriented programming language, one second. With the help of this object-oriented programming language, prototypal object-oriented programming language, the end object is very powerful. Okay, so I can start. We can create very powerful objects. What do you mean by this powerful objects? So let us assume, okay, think about this chain. Come down. We have a Superman object is there. Okay, I can call this object as a Superman. Superman. What are the powers of Superman? He can fly in the air and he has some laser eyes. Okay, and we have a child of Superman. We call him as Super Child. Okay, this child has his own property, has own power called he can fast runner. Let us assume fast runner on your earth. Fast runner. Okay, but what you can call this super cell doesn't know about it was derived from the Superman, so that obviously these powers will inherit into this particular super child. That means a super child can run fastly, can fly in the air, can have something laser eyes. Got it? Again, let us suppose, let us think about this child has another child. Okay, super, sorry, grand super child, something grand super child. Okay, so he has his own property. He can swim. Okay, super child has his own property, but he got some other properties, some other powers from his parent, so that he got some other powers from his hierarchy. Laser eyes, he can fly, he can run fastly. Okay, runner, something like that. So the final object has all these properties, all these powers. So that is why I am saying that this object derived from the prototypal object oriented language is very powerful in nature. Okay, for example, let's go back to your this Google search space. Now, this image is a very powerful object. Why? Because it was rendered inside your prototypal language. So this image not only displays some content like this, it is able to clickable. See, when I click on this, nothing happens. But it has its own property. It has its clickable property inside of it. For example, just press F12. Why? Because the document itself derived from the click events. One of the topmost parent element is click event. Now you can go for that. See, on paste, on all these properties are there inside of it. But why I'm not able to click on it? See, here the super child know about its own power. He can swim, but he doesn't know about its about his what you call the derived properties. So we need to explicitly tell to the super child that he got all these properties. Got it? Okay. So we need to explicitly tell to the super child that he got all these powers from his parent. Okay. So similarly, here image has its own property to display content on the screen, but it has some other properties in your HTML or in your JavaScript. So when I click on this, it is clickable. So but here it doesn't recognize its own property. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write, I'm going to tell to this particular image that you have the clickable property. The image can move around this document. Hey, that means he can fly on around this document. I'm going to show that one. How I'm going to make this document to fly on this, make this image to be fly on this document, and how it's going to be recognized a clickable event. Generally, it doesn't have the clickable. Now it's not able to clickable, right? Even though I mouse click on this particular image, it's not responding. But I'm going to make this image to be responsive when I click on it. So it will talk to me. So what I'm going to do is just access that image inside your this Google page. This can be accessed by its ID. So already I did that. So document dot HP logo. So the ID is HP logo. When I entered it, so this image is rendered as an object inside this JavaScript variable. Now node is nothing but your image. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I just want to add, I want to awake the power of image in this JavaScript. Okay, so I just when I on click is equal to, so that this particular image can talk to me. See, what I'm going to do is, see here, when I click on it, it will say hello Kiran. Hello Kiran, how are you? Okay, so now press enter. See, when I click on it, see it's saying that with the alert box, hello Kiran, how are you? That means when I click on this particular image, it's trying to talk with me. It's trying to display some message. This is not there by default. I just awake this property. I just awake this power of this image by writing simple code. Are you getting? So that is why the end here in our web technologies, every object should be powerful like an image. Okay, so it should detect the events, it should detect the mouse click, it should change its size, it should move around this document. Okay, such type of features should be there for this element. So writing independent code for each and every object is useless. That is what actually happen in case of your classical object-oriented programming, where we can imported some what you can call header files and going to add some extension, inheritance and deriving, something like that. But by default, your HTML page itself is a very powerful. Why? Because it follows the prototypal object-oriented language, JavaScript. So here each and every object is a powerful. So it can detect the event, click event, and it can move around this one. So let me show that one. I want to move this one. So what I'm going to do, again, take the same code, and inside of it, I'm going to node dot style dot position is equal to absolutely. I'm going to add some CSS properties so that it is able to move. The image can able to move. Node dot style dot left is equal to, I'm going to add some 200 pixels left side. I'm going to move this image. When I click on this, it will move left side. Okay, so when I click on it, hit enter. Now click on it, it displayed. Okay, see, it moved. I'm able to move this particular image to left 200 pixels from this position. So that means this particular object is able to move around this document. It has its own power. He can fly on this document. At the same time, it can detect what you can call, it can respond to my actions. Are you getting? That is, that is why we are going for prototypal object-oriented language in JavaScript. Not only this, let us take any other thing. Now I'm going to go for Flipkart.com. There is a website, Flipkart.com. Now, you know, Samsung mobiles, something like the J7 Prime. See, I do got something like this. I want, see, this text has a lot of property inside of it. Why? Because it follows, it is derived from prototypal object-oriented language. So what I'm going to do, it can change its color. Okay, so here also I can change its size also. So what I'm going to do, I just want to change the size of your Google picture. So you can see these many properties that are inbuilt to your JavaScript. Oh, sorry, JavaScript object, I can say. So what I'm going to do, width is equal to, let us make this to 500 pixels. Node dot style dot width is equal to 400 pixels. Now let us find out. Hit it. Bring this one. Click on this. See, it's got enlarged. Okay, of course it's an inline element. I'm not able to make in the direction of vertical direction. Okay, similarly I can make my text can change its color. That is one of the property of it. Is just like you know, lizard. Okay, it's going to change its color. Okay, so let me show that one. It has its own property. What is that? I want to bring this one, inspect it. I think this is not, I think this, let me copy this class, copy this and console, where node is equal to document dot query selector. Inside of it, I'm going to place some class name. Let us check what is the class here. I have an array of things. Okay, nothing is there. Sorry, I did mistake here. Yeah, I got this h1 tag. Now this h1 tag is able to, now this here it's not detectable, but this object itself has event detectable. When I click on this particular h1 tag, it can respond to me. So what I'm going to do is just clear this node dot. I'm going to add some on click event. On click is equal to function of, so I'm going to write this code. I'm able to move this one. Okay. Hello sir, which type of mobile you want? See, I'm going to place this one, and I'm going to change this color. Okay, node dot style dot. Okay, so if I'm going to reject it, if I press OK, it will turn to green. So let us change the color of the text to green. Hit it. See, a H1 can be clickable. That's property newly. Already this H1 has clickable property inside of it, but it derived from its parent. But this H1 itself doesn't recognize of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I just click on it. I just add some code. See, hello sir, which type of mobile you want? Click on this. Obviously, the code color, the H1 color got changed, and it's moved 200 pixels apart. Got it? So that means each and every object in your HTML should be very powerful. That is why with the help of JavaScript, with the help of prototypal language, I'm going to make your object to be very powerful so that it can change its color, it can detect the events, it can move around the document, and it can resize it. All these features that will be available to all the elements of your HTML page. That is why we are going for prototypal object-oriented programming. And at the same time, this will allow you to code reusability. No need to define new parents, and no need to define what you call every time if I'm going to create a new H1 object, so no need to derive from its parents, no need to write such type of things. It was already derived from what you call its own parents. Okay. Whereas coming to this, we need to explicitly say for each and every element internally for this H1 image tag, something like this, if you go for classical object-oriented programming. Okay. Okay, guys, I hope you understand what actually the prototypal language and why we are going for prototypal language in our web technologies. Okay. So just subscribe to my channel and watch more videos. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.